Our scripture reading is taken from the Gospel of John, beginning at chapter 13, verse 31. When he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little while longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Judeans, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, so you also should love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus answered, "Where I am going, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow afterward." Peter said to him, "Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me? Very truly, I tell you, before the cock crows, you will have denied me 3 times. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Love one another, love one another, as I have loved you, and care for each other, as I have cared for you. And bear one another's burdens, and share each other's joys, and love one another, and bring each other home. It's one of the first church songs I remember singing as a child. It's the very first one I learned how to play on the guitar. Once I knew A minor, I was home. I always thought it was pretty central to what we were supposed to be about as Christians, even before I knew the exact chapter and verse, the source, the context. We're circling back from where we were on Sunday in our scripture reading. Tonight's passage takes us back to the night of the Last Supper. Though in John's Gospel, we never quite make it to the dinner table. We skip right over it to the foot washing. Here's the chronology. Jesus washes the feet of his closest friends and disciples, his companions. Peter protests, but Jesus insists. If we want to be with him, first we have to let Jesus wash us clean. And so Jesus washes their feet. All the disciples we've heard named in the gospel. Simon Peter is there. Andrew is there. Nathanael and Philip are there. Thomas is there. And also that disciple who is never named, but who we are told Jesus loved. He or she is there as well. Judas is there. And then a few verses before our passage begins, Jesus quotes a psalm, Psalm 41. "Even my bosom friend in whom I trusted, who ate of my bread, has lifted the heel against me." That lifted the heel, that's a saying that means betrayal. Finally, Jesus, troubled in spirit, blurts out, "Very truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me." So naturally, Simon Peter gives a little nudge to the disciple whom Jesus loved, who was leaning against Jesus, reclining at the table. Ask him, he seems to be saying. So the beloved disciple asks, Lord, who is it? Here's what happens next. Jesus answered, it is the one to whom I give this piece of bread when I have dipped it in the dish. So when he had dipped the piece of bread, he gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. After he received the piece of bread, Satan entered into him. Jesus said to him, do quickly what you are going to do. So after receiving the piece of bread, he immediately went out, and it was night. Remember all that symbolism about night in this gospel. And then our passage begins. That's the prelude. That's the context. When he had gone out, Judas, Jesus said, now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. It's a funny word, glory. It's slippery. It seems to toggle back and forth between something we can feel and something we can see. Glory is honor, it's distinction, but it's also brilliance, beauty, magnificence. Glory is shiny somehow. But the root meaning of the word is appearance. When he had gone out, Jesus said, now the Son of Man has been made to appear, and God has been made to appear in him. This is Jesus' reaction to his betrayer going to finalize the deal, get the soldiers, bring them back. Now you will be able to see God, Jesus is saying. You will see God in me, and you will see me in God. Now. And where I'm going, you cannot come, so love one another. It would be reasonable for us Christians to assume that the glory comes later. It would be understandable for us to believe that the glory of God shines forth as Jesus is raised from the dead, as the tomb bursts open. That's where we see the brilliance, the honor, the magnificence, the glory that is God. That makes sense to us. But no, that's not the message the Gospel of John has to impart to us. John is giving us a message that really makes no sense from a strictly rational viewpoint. We see the glory of God, according to John, in the one who washes the feet of his betrayer and then breaks bread with him. We see the glory of God in the one who is willing to die to show his love and faithfulness. We see the glory of God in the one who is lifted high, not on the shoulders of excited followers, not even on a beautiful golden throne, but on a wooden cross. That's where we see the glory of God. So, Jesus says, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. Love one another by tending gently to one another, despite your divisions. Love one another by breaking bread together, reaching across all kinds of boundaries to connect with each other. Love one another because that is how God is glorified. So let me ask you to do this. Think, you can close your eyes if it helps you think. I think better with my eyes closed until I fall asleep. But maybe close your eyes and think of a time in this past week when you chose love. When you chose love. Love over indifference. Love over convenience. Love over spite. I am betting everything that you did You did at least once. I know you did. You chose love. I know you did. I bet you did it today, maybe within the last hour. And I invite you to give thanks for that opportunity to love, to show the love of God. I invite you to give thanks for the blessing of being a blessing to someone else. Now, I invite you to think of a time this past week when you found it difficult to love. Maybe you were just too tired. Maybe you were still feeling hurt. Maybe you were deeply disappointed. And I'm willing to bet that each and every one of us did, at least once, miss an opportunity to show love, to do the loving thing, to get beyond ourselves and into the place where we could live out this commandment. Probably each of us did it at least once. Because we are human, and that is our way. And so I invite you to take a moment to pray about that. To pray and to rest in the dependable and always there love of God, and to ask help to do better next time. Love one another by gently tending to one another. Love one another as you break bread together. Love one another because that is how God is glorified. Love one another, love one another, and bring each other